New Orleans signed C.J. Spiller for something other than sitting on the fucking bench.
31 other passes that should have been intercepted with one.
So that's why I have David Johnson on my board higher.
If you're doing a live draft, wait till you're drunk to draft this guy. We welcome you to the Fifth Down.
What up, Fifth Downers? This is your boy Kane Mill giving it to you, giving you that extra down to win your league. Welcome to the Fifth Down. I'm joined here by Johnny Sloat. What's up, Johnny?
Yeah, what up, Fifth Downers? We're going to be doing our Week 5 matchup show today, giving you a little bit of preview before your games come on tomorrow. What's going on?
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to do a little bit of injury updates before we jump into things.
Good call. Always good to start with some injury updates and news and notes.
Yep. Paxton Lynch is going to make his first career start this week. He's going up against Atlanta. They're 31st in yards allowed this year, and they've also given up the most passing touchdowns. Is Paxton Lynch an interesting stream this week?
I think so, especially in two quarterback leagues. I think that he's definitely worth some consideration. I think that a first matchup for a rookie quarterback doesn't get much better than that, unless you're playing New Orleans. So I say definitely.
Yeah, all right. Kyle Rudolph is off the injury report. He looks like he's going to be a full go for this weekend. It's a tough matchup against Houston, but you got to love the way he's been used in the red zone.
Oh, yeah. Talk about the chemistry between him and Sam Bradford. I loved it. I was one of his biggest haters heading into the season, but I am officially on the train. If you have Rudolph, I think that he's a star for you guys.
Marvin Jones practiced fully yesterday. He's going to play banged up, kind of like he did the last couple of weeks. So it looks for him to be a top option this week going up against Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, I think so too. He's had a good round of practice this week, and I think that he can definitely contribute this week. I mean, it is a tough draw for defenses, but I think that he can get it done.
Jeffrey practiced limited all week. Eddie Royal is going to be a game-time decision. Chicago's receiving corps is all banged up right now. They just lost Kevin White for probably the year.
Yeah. It's looking like it's a really banged-up wide receiver corps over there. And it's really not even good if Jeffrey plays because he's not even averaging 8 targets a game. I mean, and this is something we were really hoping for. You know, if you drafted Jeffrey, you're hoping he'd be seeing all the targets this year. And he really hasn't seen his fair share of them. But if Eddie Royal's not a go, and Alshon Jeffrey is a go, I think that you got to start him because he's definitely going to be getting the share of the targets. Which also brings me to Meredith being a kind of nice streaming option this week as far as receivers go.
Yeah, it looks like he was starting opposite of Jeffrey last game, so he could be a waiver wire pickup at the last minute if you're in dire need of a receiver. Just hopefully Brian Hoyer can funnel in a bunch of targets for Jeffrey, kind of like how he did with Hopkins last year.
Yeah, who knows? I guess only time will tell, but yeah, I haven't liked Jeffrey's workload so far this season, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see how he is going forward.
Finally, some good news for Todd Gurley owners. Todd Gurley's been working on his ability to catch the ball before and after practice this week, so maybe they're going to try to utilize him more since they've been stacking the box against him. They still want to get him out to the outside maybe a little bit more. He had 5 catches last week, so maybe that can be a trend that can continue.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they start utilizing him because, like I said during one of our preseason shows, Benny Cunningham has been spelling him on the third down, passing down role. And if Todd Gurley could get himself in there and establish a passing down role and start being utilized more like a Matt Forte, like a rare 3-down back like David Johnson, I think that it does nothing but help value.
Dwayne Washington not expected to play for the Detroit Lions, so looks like with him out, Zach Zenner will probably take his role over.
Yeah, Zach Zenner makes an interesting stash in a lot of leagues because, and I don't know how severe this DeAndre Washington injury is, but you got to think, Theo Riddick hasn't really impressed in that 3-down role. So I think it's definitely worth a speculative add if this DeAndre Washington injury ends up being a little more serious than a lot of people think it is.
Yeah, I just don't know how good Detroit's run game could even be. But what do you think about like maybe a guy like Justin Forsett landing in Detroit?
I could definitely see it happening. They're very light. Obviously, they've had really horrible luck with running backs this year. So I think that a guy like Justin Forsett who's looking for a job, he'll get signed somewhere before the season's over. So I definitely think that, if you have extra spot in like a deep league, I think that Justin Forsett could be worth an ad.
I mean, I don't think you should go out and rush to the waiver wire this minute because he's really not on a team. I was just saying Detroit kind of needs an extra body over there, and Justin Forsett is looking for a job. But I just think he'd be pretty miserable in Detroit, to be honest. Their offensive line's not very good.
Yeah, but I do think I really like that you brought that up because that is a really good point. Justin Forsett is looking for a job. They're light on running backs. I definitely could see it. We'll see. I'm definitely not saying rush to go get him either, but I'm saying if you got an open bench spot, and I'm saying you could do worse. I mean, if you have a throwaway player, throw him away. Maybe see what happens.
Derek Anderson will start on Monday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You'll get a home matchup against them. I think that's actually a solid stream option. Tampa Bay has given up 9 touchdown passes and only had 1 interception on the season, and they've been giving up the 4th most yards per attempt. So I think that's a solid streaming option in Derek Anderson, especially if you're in a 2-quarterback league and you had Cam Newton, he went down. I think you could actually plug him in.
Yeah, actually, I really like Derek Anderson from the standpoint of, a lot of backups, like for instance, Drew Stanton came in for Carson Palmer. That's a huge downgrade to those Arizona receivers. But Derek Anderson's a competent enough quarterback. He's not really that much of a drop-off as far as, for those receivers. So I really, think that this doesn't really hurt anybody's value. In fact, I think it maybe keeps Olsen's value about the same. And Kelvin Benjamin, I think that he'll get utilized too. So I really don't think it's a drop-off at all with Derek Anderson at the helm.
Yeah, he's a smart quarterback. Looks like Charlie Sims is not going to start this week. Jaquiz Rogers is going to draw the start. So maybe he could be a speculative ad for maybe a flex position. 21 of 103 receptions from Jameis Winston have gone to the running backs. That's about a 20% target share.
Yeah, I don't know how much I'm loving Jaquiz Rogers. He's still really undersized for running back. Start seeing something like what's going on with Theo Riddick in Detroit. I'm really not too excited about him.
Right, and the Panthers' top cornerback is out this week, so, they already got shredded last week. I think that just helps Mike Evans out even more.
Yeah, I think that Mike Evans is in for a big week. I think this is a depleted secondary, and I think that he's going to feast.
Antonio Gates is going to try and play this week. I think that doesn't really do a whole lot other than he's playing injured. It's going to hamper his ability to make plays. Hunter Henry's not going to play as much. It's going to hurt him fantasy-wise. You got to kind of drop them both into the tight end 2 category this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in a good matchup.
Honestly, if I'm a San Diego Chargers fan or if I'm like a Hunter Henry owner, I'm just hoping Antonio Gates through this week. I really want to see more out of this kid, and I think that Antonio Gates just playing old as fuck is just hurting his value, so I think that he needs to just retire. I'm ready for the Hunter Henry show.
All right. Rashad Jennings out again. Looks like Darkwa is going to lead the backfield in a committee again this week. I'm not too excited about that. So what do you think about that?
It surprised me how many fantasy points he did get last time because I'm not excited about it either. But I think if you stashed him as a speculative thing, I think that he might be a somewhat decent play this week. The Giants are playing the Packers, and the Packers aren't that good of a defense to begin with, so it will be a committee limiting his touches, but I think that you could do worse at the flex position.
I heard something interesting on the news today that a lot of the 49er players are calling for Ponder to start over both Kaepernick and Gabbert, and my immediate reaction was, why?
Yeah, I'm very surprised by this, honestly. I don't think it matters who starts for the 49ers. I think that they're just going to suck. I think that the only player worth even thinking about owning in that entire offense is Carlos Hyde, and that's it. Maybe Jeremy Curley, but other than that, Gabbert's been horrible. Kaepernick is may or may not start. It sounds like he's going to be the starter week 6, though, but from what I've heard in practice, he hasn't been good. So I don't think it matters who starts. I think that it's just going to be horrible.
Curley actually produced pretty good in garbage time this past couple of days ago. I think he had over 100 yards and a touchdown. He's one of the league leaders in targets too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's been getting all the targets. He's the de facto number one over there, which kind of speaks volumes about how bad these 49er receivers have been for a guy that got cut by the Lions, is their top receiver. So I think that this is he's definitely worth owning in all leagues. He's definitely getting the targets, and he can definitely do something, especially in your flex position. And
last piece of news is Matt Forte will play this week, even though he is a little bit banged up. But they said he was banged up, not injured, so he'll be a full go.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and he's done. I'm sorry, Matt. I don't mean to diss you, but I need Powell to produce, so.
All right, yeah, you want to jump into some matchups?
Yeah, let's start it from the top. Let's go Texans-Vikings. Starting on the Texans side of the ball, we have Brock Osweiler, and he has not been good. He's not looked sharp at all this season, being that feature quarterback in that Texans offense, and he's getting a horrible matchup this week. I think that he's going to get shredded up this week.
Yeah, actually, the Minnesota Vikings are favored by a touchdown in this game. Do you think that they'll easily cover that spread?
I think so. I mean, they've looked impressive so far, and I really like how Sam Bradford has looked through 4 weeks. I think that he's a good match for this offense. I love how he's utilizing Kyle Rudolph, especially in red zone situations. And Stephon Diggs, though, is last I heard was doubtful this week, so that is something to keep your eye on. I don't know how excited I am for anything other than maybe Jerick McKinnon and Kyle Rudolph.
Even if Diggs was to play, he hasn't really played very well the past couple of weeks. He started out real hot, but the last couple of weeks he's been held under 50 yards. So I think you're going to look for McKinnon and try to get it done on the ground, and then maybe Rudolph can get it done in the red zone. But I'm expecting this to be a low-scoring game.
Yeah, I think this is going to be more of a grinded-out 17-13 type of game. I can see maybe Lamar Miller getting a touchdown on the Texans side. But I really think this is going to be a grinded-out, ground-and-pound game for both teams. I think that Brock Osweiler is really going to struggle in the air. I could see him definitely throwing 3 or so picks. And I think that Lamar Miller is going to be the entire Texans offense this week, or I think that he's going to be their only weapon worth mentioning.
Yeah, he's gotten 93 carries in the past 4 games with 106 total touches, including his receptions. But he hasn't scored a single touchdown this year, so it's kind of crazy. He's leading the league in touches, but he doesn't have a touchdown. You got to hope that he can try to have some success against a tough front this week.
Yeah, definitely. I think he is a horrible matchup this week to try to do it, but he's got to get a touchdown at some point. I'm calling it. It's going to happen one of these weeks, and every week I'm just like, why not this week? So I'm looking for him to get one at least. And I think I call it out a little bit on Bill O'Brien's play calling. I think that he trusts Brock's arm so much that he's not giving Lamar Miller enough chances. I mean, he's giving him enough touches, but I don't think he's putting him in scoring positions and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, he has one of the least amount of red zone carries. I think he only has like 1 carry inside the 5-yard line and only 2 inside the 10-yard line. So he's not getting a lot of opportunities to even score a touchdown. But I think that the Texans should probably try throwing the ball a little bit more on first down, and maybe that could open up their offense a little bit.
Yeah,
they seem to be running the ball too many times on first down.
Yeah, it kind of worries me, season long, looking at, Lamar Miller's health. They're expecting an awful lot about him, and they're really just having him grind out yards. He's not really having a really high yards per carry average. He's not really getting the red zone looks. They're kind of doing what the Jets are doing with Matt Forte, just kind of running him in the ground, and it kind of concerns me. I own him in a couple of leagues, so.
Well, the big thing about Miller is he doesn't really have an injury history, but Forte does. So I think this is kind of like a test to see if he can handle this kind of workload. He hasn't really been very efficient.
Yeah, I really hope he can get that efficiency up, but I don't think that it starts this week. This Vikings defense is probably questionably the best in the league right now, so I think this is a horrible matchup, especially for Brock Osweiler, though.
Yeah, don't you think DeAndre Hopkins misses Hoyer? Hoyer seemed to just be funneling him all these targets last year, and now with Osweiler as the quarterback, he's kind of spreading things out a little bit more, and he's not seeing that volume that he was seeing last year. And last week he didn't have a catch till like the late third quarter. Yeah.
I think that one of two things is going to happen. either Hopkins is going to continue to just not get enough targets this season, or Will Fuller is going to have a steep drop off, and then Hopkins is just going to come alive all of a sudden. So, and I think that Hopkins will eventually start coming alive here, and it's not really his fault. I think that Brock Osweiler is just not trusting him enough to make those plays.
All right, let's go over to New England at Cleveland. New England is 11.5-point favorites. I think they will cover the spread despite being such heavily favored. Tom Brady's starting his revenge tour against probably one of the best one of the best matchups. Cleveland hasn't been doing a whole lot this year. They're the opposite of undefeated.
Yeah.
And Blunt is kind of questionable this week, so I think Tom Brady's going to come out throwing the ball, and maybe that's going to help out Hogan a little bit because he only had one catch the past 2 games and 5 targets for 3 yards. So you got to get him utilized a little bit more, especially with Gronk not at 100%.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be interesting to see. I've been hearing rumblings that Gronk will be heavily utilized because Brady's back in the lineup. But I wouldn't risk his health. I mean, but if Brady's proven one thing, he loves to spread around his receivers. So, and I also, Edelman is questionable, but I think he does play, and I think that everybody's going to get involved in this game. I think that Brady's going to just spread the ball around like he usually does. I look for James White to get involved as well. I think there's just going to be like a nice little homecoming for Tom Brady.
Edelman is having that same foot pain that he was having dating back to last year, so that's a bit of a concern, but it does look like he's going to play, and you got to love the fact that he's getting Tom Brady back. I think the Patriots are rolling this one.
Yeah, right. I think this is a perfect game for Tom Brady to get his feet back out from under him and get his footing again, and then get ready to tear the league to shreds like he usually does.
Right. Do you think that maybe Duke Johnson gets a bit of a uptick in play this week, despite the success that Crowell's had?
Yeah, you know what? I've heard rumblings that he's going to start seeing more work, so we'll see. I'll believe it when I see it. But through this long of the season, 4 weeks, Crowell's been pretty impressive. So I think that if I'm the Cleveland offense, I think I'm just going to feed it to my best guy, who is the second in rushing yards in the league. So, funnel to your guy.
It wouldn't surprise me, though, if Cleveland kind of falls behind early and then they start getting into like a passing mode, and that might actually bring in Duke Johnson's value up this week because he really hasn't done a whole lot thus far. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that they might, because this is a game where I could definitely see it getting out of hand really quickly for Cleveland. So, and if that's the case, then I look for guys like Terrell Pryor and Duke Johnson to get involved.
Speaking of Terrell Pryor, are you hesitant about starting him this week?
I would say no. I know that this New England secondary is, towards the better half of the league. Malcolm Butler is a pretty good cover corner, but I'm still starting Pryor no matter what, I think, unless I have somebody better to start over him.
He's been getting 10-plus targets 3 out of the past 4 weeks, so he's definitely been getting the volume over there. The reason why I say, are you at all worried about starting him is, aren't you afraid that maybe the Patriots just try to concentrate on stopping him since he's really their only option over there? I think that's what makes me a little bit more hesitant about starting him.
Yeah, I can definitely see Belichick being the defensive genius that he is. Just having the entire defense key in on Terrell Pryor and maybe taking away the run game with Crowell, and then the Browns have to play somewhat of a grinded-out type game. I could definitely see that happening.
I mean, if they do decide to try to take him out, I think that could mean that Barnidge could have a pretty good game. Yeah, he had 6 for 60 last game. He doesn't really seem to be having a bad time with Cody Kessler at quarterback.
Yeah, he seems like everybody was like, oh, it's the end of the world. Cody Kessler starting extreme defense against the Browns, but at the same token, he's done pretty well. He's taken care of the ball. He hasn't thrown interceptions or committed any turnovers or too many turnovers. I mean, but I think that this is I don't know. I don't feel good about this one.
No, you shouldn't. You want to jump over to a different matchup?
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about the Colts and the Bears.
Bears underdogs in this one by 5.5 points. They're going at Indianapolis. Who do you see covering the spread?
I tend to go towards the Colts at home. I think that they're automatic. Like 3 of those 5 points is because they're at home. So I'm going to say the Colts in this one. They started out the season very badly. Their defense is Swiss cheese, and Andrew Luck is just that offense is struggling to find an identity. So I look for this week. This Bears defense is not impressive. I think that Andrew Luck should have a pretty good game.
I think that Indianapolis is going to ultimately win the game. I don't think they're going to cover the spread. I do see them winning by like 3 or 4 points, though. I think that Andrew Luck should try to get it back together against this defense. He's only thrown 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions within the past 3 weeks, so he's definitely got to step his game up if Indianapolis is going to be successful.
Yeah, he's also on an insane sack ratio per game. I think that he's taken 15 sacks so far this season, and that's like that's obliterating his old all-time high as far as sacks go through the first 5 weeks. So he's definitely, his offensive line's not giving him enough protection. They're not letting him be him. So I think that they really need to protect him a little better and let the play develop a little more. And also, Andrew Luck's got to be a little smarter with the football. He's absorbing way too many unnecessary hits.
Yeah, I think he needs to kind of change up his style a little bit. I don't like the way he runs with the ball. I think he does it a little bit too often. I'd like to just see him try to find that open person.
Yeah, well, Jim Irsay even called him out on it, the Colts owner, and he said that Andrew Luck takes way too many unnecessary hits. He needs to work on his sliding and all that stuff. And I agree with him. I think that Andrew Luck just really needs to work on that. He needs to have a little better awareness. I know that he took the league by storm, his first 2 years. But he's got to be a little bit smarter with the football. But ultimately, I think that he's got to get his feet back from under him, at some point. So I think that this is a perfect game for him to do that, a good confidence builder for him.
Sticking with the Indianapolis Colts, we got Frank Gore at the running back position. He gets to go up against a defense that, they've been giving up some points to the running back position this year. I know they're a little bit better than what they were last year, but they're still towards the bottom half. How do you see Frank Gore doing this week?
Yeah, I see him finishing somewhere around maybe 70 yards from scrimmage. Maybe a touchdown is really hard to predict or not, but I see him getting about 70 yards. I don't think he quite closes that 100-yard barrier. I actually look. My X factor this week is Philip Dorsett. I think that they're going to key in on T.Y. Hilton. I think it's going to open things up, and I like Dorsett scoring a long touchdown this week.
Dorsett really needs to get his shit going this week. I know he had a long touchdown last week, but that was his only reception he had in that game. He has 5 receptions in 3 games. I think if they want to be successful, they need to find a different receiver other than just Hilton to throw to,
Yeah, exactly. They can't just keep throwing to Mr. Reliable all the time. They got to open up stuff, and I think it's going to improve when Moncrief comes back because he's a nice red zone threat for the Colts and everything like that. But Philip Dorsett, plain and simple, he's got to step up. Especially with Moncrief being out. I think that this is going to be a nice 3-headed monster when he gets back, but until then, he's got to really put in that extra effort because this Colts offense is counting on him.
Yeah, and speaking of Mr. Reliable, T.Y. Hilton has had 10-plus targets in every single game this year.
Wow, fire.
Yeah, I'm looking for him to have another nice game against the 30th-ranked pass defense. I think that he'll be a big part of this game.
Yeah, I do too. I think that T.Y. Hilton's always, I'm really hoping that he ends up proving everybody I told right when I said that he's going to have career highs this year. And I really hope that happens because so far he's been getting so many targets and he's been doing well.
All right, and then I guess the last to mention is their tight end position. I think they both kind of cut into each other's value a little bit. Although, Doyle had 15 targets before last week, but I think that they're both kind of cutting into each other's work right now.
Yeah, it's hard to predict who's going to produce and who's not. I think I like Doyle a little bit more because I think that Andrew Luck's been targeting him more than in the red zone. So I think if I'm going to start one of these tight ends, I think my money's on Doyle.
All right, and then if we jump over to the other side of the ball, I think that Brian Hoyer is a nice streaming option this week going up against Indianapolis. I think he's going to definitely look for Alshon Jeffrey. He's going to funnel him the ball. It's something that he likes to do to the number 1 receiver. Look for both of them to have pretty decent days.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that Brian Hoyer is a really nice option this week. This Colts secondary just fired 2 guys, and their defense is so not healthy that I'm surprised they were even able to fire those 2 guys. I don't even know if they have enough to play a full secondary this week. But I look for Alshon Jeffrey to definitely produce this week. I think this is kind of a make it or break it. I think that if Alshon Jeffrey has a big week this week, I think he's a sell high candidate because right now I'm really not impressed with his health and I'm not impressed with his workload so far.
Yeah, that is a pretty good point. I think, though, the X factor for the Chicago Bears is going to be the run game. I think they can try to milk the ball with Jordan Howard a little bit, try to keep Indianapolis off the field. I think that's how they get this victory on the road. If Jordan Howard's coming off a 100-yard game against the Lions, and Indianapolis isn't a whole lot better at stopping the run than the Lions, so I think that he's in line for another big day.
Yeah, I think that definitely could happen, too. I think that Jordan Howard is really impressed. He's been that lead back. He's definitely done better than Jeremy Langford, and he's had a little better luck with ball security, too, so look for that. And I like him finishing around 80 to 100 yards with a touchdown. I think that's a fair call to say his production this week.
I do think he gets his first career touchdown this week. And I like the fact that he's been utilizing the passing game as well. So he can get it done. I think it makes him like a 3-down back.
Yeah. I think that if you stash him on your bench, you're really reaping the benefits. I think that all rest of the season, I don't think that anybody's going to really challenge him for that lead back role as long as he can stay healthy.
Well, there was some rumblings that he may split his workload with Langford when he comes back. But if he keeps producing like he did against the Lions, I think it'd be kind of hard to go back to Langford.
Well, hey, just look at what John Fox said. You know, he said it himself. He's going to ride the hot hand. And if I see no reason to switch. If Jordan Howard is hot, I think that John Fox takes the hot hand.
He did handle 26 of 29 touches last week, so he's definitely the hot hand.
Yeah, he is definitely the hot hand. Ready to move on to another matchup?
I just want to talk about Zach Miller a little bit before we go. He's been getting utilized a little bit the past couple of weeks. I think that he'd be an interesting streamer, or if he's already on your team, you could plug him into your lineup, especially if you have like a tight end on a bye.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you need a tight end, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better matchup, and he is definitely a tight end one until further notice. Last 2 weeks he's caught at least 1 touchdown, and he's been getting a nice share targets, so I think that he's a definite option, especially if you have a bye week this week and he's sitting on your bench. Plug him in there.
And an interesting side note on Dwayne Allen, he hasn't gone over 4 catches or 53 yards in a single game this year.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. You already know how well I am on Dwayne Allen, so we can just move on.
All right, next matchup we could talk about is Philadelphia at Detroit. Philadelphia is 3.5-point favorites on the road, and I think they run away with this one. I think they'll definitely cover that spread. I think that this game's not going to be that close.
Yeah, Carson wasn't impressive. I'm actually starting him in a couple of leagues. I think that he's a great quarterback to start this week. You can't find a better matchup. And look for guys all around that Eagles offense to produce. I think Zach Ertz is going to get a touchdown. I love him coming back to the lineup this week. I think that Wentz is going to know exactly what to do with him. I like Jordan Matthews this week. I think that as long as he can not drop the ball in key situations, I think that he gets a touchdown. I think that even Ryan Matthews will, produce RB3 value, even though this is looking like a committee from hell, So
I don't think it's going to be a committee from hell this week. I think Smallwood's going to take the back seat this week, and it's going to be Ryan Matthews and Darren Sproles handling most of the work.
Yeah, I think so too. And it sounds like Ryan Matthews isn't even on the injury report right now. I think that his ankles are healed up for the most part, but we all know his injury history, and we all know how that can go south in a hurry for this guy. So, but I'm saying that at the very least, I think that he has RB3 flex floor. So, I think that he's a safe start this week.
The past 3 weeks, Jordan Howard had 100 yards, Eddie Lacy had 100 yards, and DeMarco Murray all had 100 yards against the Detroit Lions. So, I think Ryan Matthews could do something very similar.
Yeah, he's definitely, like I said, in a couple of leagues I'm starting him, so I have high hopes for him. We'll see.
Like you said, I think Jordan Matthews, I think you have to have a little bit of tempered expectations because he does drop the ball, but I could see him getting like 70 yards, maybe even a touchdown. I think Zachary Ertz is probably my favorite tight end this week. I think he's going to roll. The Lions have been pretty pathetic against tight ends, so I think he's a definite tight end one. So yeah, I like a lot of Philadelphia starters this week, you could say.
Good news if you're a Jordan Matthews owner. I heard that he won't be blanketed by Darius Slay because he's going to be doing some work out of the slot.
I mean, either way, like the Lions have been getting lit up in the passing game, so I'm not too concerned about that either. If we jump over to the other side of the ball, Matthew Stafford, he struggled mightily against the Bears defense last week, which was kind of surprising. Now he gets a tough draw against one of the top defenses in the league. I think he's a sit for me.
Yeah, I think he is too, because in one situation, in one league I have, Matthew Stafford is my starter, and, Carson Wentz on my bench, and this week I'm going to flip-flop it. I'm going to put Stafford. He has 2 back-to-back bad matchups this week and next, and Carson Wentz actually has 2 really good matchups back-to-back. I know that's kind of beside the point, but, yeah, I think that if you're in that situation, definite sit for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even sitting Stafford against guys like they haven't even really been that impressive, like Eli Manning even as a start over Stafford for me.
Yeah, Stafford.
Theo Riddick probably going to draw the majority of the touches from the running back position this week. He hasn't really been effective through the interior of the defense, but he's second in the league in targets for running backs thus far. So I think that's where he's going to excel in this one.
Yeah, I think that's where he's going to get his value in those passing downs. But, honestly, working straight out of behind center, I think that he's not going to get a lot of success. He hasn't, in the past. He's not really too good about breaking tackles. Once he gets contact, he's not good at breaking through that. But he's so quick.
He's more an elusive type person.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, if you get him with some open field, he can definitely shoot people out and stuff like that. And I think that's where he excels. So I like Detroit to play his strengths, and I think that he's
get him out to the edge.
Yeah, exactly. I think that he's one of the only Lions this week that actually produces.
And I know they're probably going to get Zenner some touches, but if they fall behind too much, Zenner could just be game flowed right out of the game,
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. This game could really get out of hand fast for the Lions.
Now we got Marvin Jones. He's playing a little bit beat up, but he was successful enough against the Packers when he was beat up. I know last week wasn't a very good showing for the team in general.
Yeah, I think so. Him being the number one and getting the most of, Matthew Stafford's targets this week, I don't know. He's playing banged up. He's played very well through the first 4 games this season. So I think you have to have a little bit of tempered expectations, but I think that you still don't have a whole lot of better options to start this week as far as your wide receivers go, so I think you start them anyways. But, it's hard to call on this one. I think that you have to start him because of the targets he's getting, but honestly, it's a tough draw for him.
Yeah, I think a sneaky play this week could be Antoine Bolden, with Golden Tate looking like a piece of shit, as our boy Rico would say, and Eric Ebron's not going to play. I think that Bolden could be that guy that gets open around the slot area. I think that's an area that he's going to utilize this week.
Yeah, not to mention in the red zone, too. He's scored a couple touchdowns already, and I look for him.
Had a couple called back.
Yeah, had a couple called back, too. That's right. So, yeah, I definitely look for him to have a little bit of success this week.
All right. What matchup do you want to go to next?
Let's go to one of my personal favorites, the Jets and the Steelers.
All right. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah. Let's start on the Jets. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 9 picks, 2 weeks. He gets a somewhat easier matchup this week as far as, the passing work goes. This is a secondary that's been pretty torched, over the last little bit. Not so much by Kansas City last week because, that was just an unwatchable game. But, I think that this is a good draw for him, and I think that Brandon Marshall's a really good play this week.
Yeah, you got Pittsburgh's favored by 8 at home. I think they'll cover. I do think they'll cover that spread. I like the way their offense looked with Le'Veon Bell back. Fitzpatrick has struggled. I don't think he'll have as much struggles this week per se, but I just don't think that they haven't. The whole offense is banged up. Forte's banged up. Marshall's banged up, and Noon was even banged up. I just don't see them having enough firepower to win this game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. There's just not enough health-wise. But I do think that Fitzpatrick and Marshall will have good games. You know, the secondary isn't really scaring anybody on Pittsburgh.
I think that this could be a game where maybe they try to limit Forte's touches a little bit because, you know, he is kind of banged up a little bit. And Powell actually had 6 targets in the red zone in the past 4 games. So I think that maybe this is a game where he can get into the end zone. And Anunwa has had 18 targets the past 2 weeks. And he's probably going to have William Gay on him this week. And I think that he can expose that matchup and he'd be the victor.
Yeah, you know, I hope Enumwa plays, and as far as that running game goes, honestly, with Forte being banged up, I look for this to be a little more of a, I wouldn't say it's like going to be a 50-50 committee, you know, by any means, but I do think that Powell's going to cut into, you know, Forte's workload this week, and I think it's going to keep going up from here because the more unhealthy Forte gets, the more touches Powell's going to get. It started last week, and I think it continues this week, so.
I think he can be a sneaky play.
Yeah, I have him in my flex position in a couple leagues, and I think that it could definitely be a nice flex play this week, especially if he gets a touchdown. I think that just one touchdown will justify him being in your flex spot.
Especially if this game becomes a shootout, which it very well may, because, you know, you got Big Ben, you got Bell, you got Antonio Brown. You know, they're going to be putting up some points. Jets aren't a very good pass defense, so I think this could very well be a shootout.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you got Big Ben over here. He's slinging the rock all over the place, and he's looking good doing it. I think that's going to be something that's going to continue. Le'Veon Bell is the one that probably has the toughest matchup out of that trio. The Jets haven't given up 75 yards or more to a running back at all this season, so I think that he's going to have to get it done a little bit in the passing game. They have lined him up in the slot a little bit, and that's something that you may see this week.
Yeah, definitely. I think that this Pittsburgh offense, I think that Antonio Brown could definitely burn Revis for a touchdown or two. You know, Revis hasn't looked the same, and Antonio Brown just looks as explosive as ever. So I look for Antonio Brown to obviously have a good day. Le'Veon Bell gets a little tough of a draw. And I honestly like Sammy Coates to get involved here, get a nice long pass or, you know, a long pass and a touchdown. So we'll see. Well,
I could see them moving Antonio Brown around the formation a little bit. Maybe they move him into the slot, and then they still have Sammy Coates on the outside, and they get a match to put Jarrell Revis. If you can burn him down the sideline, I could see Coates being a guy that can get a long touchdown and definitely a DFS play for sure.
Yeah, I'll say.
All right. Is there anybody else that you want to mention in this game?
Not really. You can't really speak of a Jets tight end. They don't utilize a tight end at all.
Well, you don't like ASJ?
ASJ, come on, man, get out of here.
No, the Jets have yet to complete a pass to a tight end this year.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. All right, moving on. You want to go to the Titans and the Dolphins?
Sure, we could do that one. The Miami Dolphins are favored by 3.5 points at home, but I think that ultimately this is going to be a game that Tennessee wins. So if I had to pick the spread, I'd probably lean more towards Tennessee on this one.
Yeah, this is a crapshoot game, man. I was picking it for my football pool, and I'm just like, who the fuck do I want to pick, man? These teams are both shitty, and I think I strictly took the Dolphins because they're at home. I don't necessarily think they'll cover the spread at all, but, you know, I can't make heads or tails of this game. I mean, Tannehill and Mariota, if you look at both of them as a comparison, they've both looked horrible through the first 4 games this season. And, I mean, this game might be borderline unwatchable. I can see this being a grinded-out game, too, where it ends somewhere around, 10-13 final score.
I mean, I think the only startable player they got on Miami at this point in terms of fantasy is Jarvis Landry. He's another guy that has had double-digit targets every single game this year. So, I mean, you shouldn't be afraid to play him, even with Tannehill looking like shit.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you start him. I think that Ajayi represents a sneaky play this week. He's going to be it's not going to be that 4-man committee that Adam Gase decided to pull out of his ass a couple weeks ago. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking with that. But I like Ajayi this week. I think that him and Kenyon Drake should dominate touches going forward. However, they're both going to be cutting into each other's workload, so, have tempered expectations. But, if you have a guy that's on a bye this week, I think that Ajayi is a decent enough play at running back. You got him on your bench.
I'm just concerned about their offensive line. They haven't really ran the ball very well, so I think I still have Jay as a sit. Parker doesn't get enough consistent workload to be a start, I think. So, I mean, and obviously Tannehill, he could be even dropped if you really want to go down that route.
I think I would, honestly. If you have a quarterback that you feel confident in, has maybe already hit his bye, or is going to hit it in the coming weeks, I think that, yeah, honestly, you could probably just either, if you're in a small league, grab something better.
Here's the reason why I think Tennessee is going to get this win, is because Miami, I know they did a decent job against Cincinnati last week at stopping the run, but throughout the season they haven't really been good at stopping the run, and now they get DeMarco Murray, one of my favorite starts this week. I think he's going to be the reason why Tennessee pulls away for this victory.
Yeah, I think that you'd be hard-pressed to find a better matchup for a running back this week. He's probably my start of the week, too, at running back. And this Lions defense has just been a big gaping hole, not being too provocative there. So, yeah, I think he gets it done. He's a good bet to get a touchdown. He's a good bet to maybe get 100-plus yards. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too excited about Mariota or Tajay Sharp at all. But I think that the guy that's going to be the main beneficiary of Mariota's terrible passes is Delanie Walker. I think that he could be an interesting buy-low candidate.
Yeah, I can agree to that. I think that he is. I actually like him going forward as long as he can stay healthy. Because, I think he's going to be the best recipient out of Mariota's shitty quarterback play. I think that he's going to go to his old reliable of sorts, and he should get a lot of red zone work, going forward.
Our next matchup we have slated is Washington at Baltimore. Baltimore is favored by 4 points at home. I think they will win this game. Washington has lost a lot of close games this year. I think this is going to be another close game that Baltimore is going to win.
Yeah, you got to like Baltimore at home because they win ugly games, and I hate their fucking team. I have no idea why the fuck they've won so many times this year. Close games. It pisses me off. And it pisses me off that a team this shitty is actually probably going to the playoffs this year. But, yeah, I'm actually going to go the opposite. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to take the Redskins in this one because I really think that Kirk Cousins is going to take a step forward. I've been saying it all year. I think that he's going to do it. So I think that this is going to be part of it. But honestly, if you look at it, I don't really think there's anybody on the Redskins side of the ball that I like except for maybe Kirk and, Reed.
I think Matt Jones could be a good play, just not this week, but I mean, like for the rest of the season, I think he could be a good play. But yeah, this week I think it's going to be Cousins looking towards Reed's way. Reed is the second most targeted tight end in the league behind Greg Olsen. So I think that these two need to have a good game for Washington to win on the road.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think if and the reason I say the Redskins should win this game is because to stay in the NFC East hunt, this is kind of almost a must-win for Washington. They gotta stay in their division, so to speak. So I look for Washington to be hungry in this game, and but on the other side of the ball, you got this is a really good matchup for guys like Joe Flacco and Mike Wallace and Steve Smith Sr. Because this Washington defense has been pretty weak.
Yeah, I think old man Smith is going to keep it up. He's got 10-plus targets in back-to-back games. It looks like he's being the number one receiver over there, the go-to guy. I think Wallace is more of like a hit-or-miss type of player like he's been in his career. I'm looking for Steve Smith to get involved in this game like he was the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he's going to be the center point of this offense. I think that Terrence West also draws a pretty good matchup. This Redskins defense hasn't really been able to stop the run too well either. They've really been doing a whole lot of anything well. So I think that Terrence West and Steve Smith Sr. could have really good weeks, and I think as far as that goes, too, Joe Flacco as well.
I think that Terrence West is going to have a pretty good game as well. Washington's also been kind of weak against the run, and it looks like he's going to probably be the guy that's going to get 20 touches this week.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that he's going to be in for a heavy workload this week. I don't really think we're going to see too much of the Kenneth Dixon show. I know the hype train is building up on him, but I think that Terrence West is going to put on a clinic this week. But I do think, though, that Terrence West is going to have to keep it up to fend off Kenneth Dixon, because I think in the coming weeks he's going to get more and more of a workload.
Yeah, I think if Terrence West has a good game this week, he's definitely a sell high candidate. But I think a lot of people might see through that smoke screen and maybe try to stay away, even though he is a sell high candidate, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that I would trade for him necessarily. I think if you own Terrence West, I think you ride him while he's hot, and then kind of maybe try to trade him. If not, though, just ride him through the hot streak, and then maybe bench him, and then hopefully Kenneth Dixon with his injury history gets injured again, and then bam. I don't know.
All right. Well, I think the last guy that has a chance of producing on this team is Dennis Pitta. He's been a pleasant surprise thus far in this short season.
Yeah, he's back from the dead this year, that's for sure, and he's getting a lot of targets too, so I think that he's definitely a good tight end to start this week.
All right. Going over to the other side of the ball, I know we mentioned Cousins a little bit. He kind of struggles a little bit on the road. I think that's a concern that I have for Washington going into Baltimore. Baltimore does have one of the better pass defenses in this league. They actually held Derek Carr under 200 yards. I think he's going to have to be an efficient quarterback and maybe just try to do more with less.
Yeah, I think so too. I have D-Jax as a sit this week, so I don't really think he does too much. I think Crowder ends up having a pretty good game because he's been that dip dunk type of guy, with these passes, just these quick 5-yard, 10-yard completions here and there. So I look for that to happen.
Yeah, Crowder actually had 25 targets in the 3 weeks before last week, where he only had 3. So they have to get him more involved in that because they're doing a little bit better when he was being more utilized.
I totally agree.
All right. Obviously, we already touched on the rest of them. Is there anyone else you want to mention here?
I'm good.
All right, we can move on to the next matchup. Who do you want to talk about?
Let's go to my favorites, the Broncos versus the Falcons. I think this is going to be could be a really high-scoring game. I think that Paxton Lynchstraw is a nice first matchup, as far as his first start ever as a rookie goes. This Falcons defense has been getting torched in weeks past, and I look for it to continue this week. I think that Emmanuel Sanders is my X factor in this Broncos offense. I think that he's going to get it done. I like him getting a long touchdown at some point this week. And, C.J. Anderson has a pretty good draw, too. Who do you like from this Denver offense?
Well, I think I like the receiving core a little bit here because, Atlanta has been giving up some passes in the coming weeks. I know they did a pretty good job last week against Carolina, but, Sanders has 13 targets in back-to-back weeks, and Demaryius Thomas has 90 yards or a touchdown in 3 straight games with back-to-back games with a touchdown. So I think that their success is going to have to continue, but I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to lean a little bit on the run with Paxton Lynch at quarterback.
Yeah, and especially, too, you think the Falcons have the number 1 offense in the league, through the first 4 weeks. I think that Denver's going to try to keep them off of the field as much as possible. So I think that, getting that run established is definitely going to help that move along too, so they're going to want to be a run-first team this week. And
C.J. Anderson, every game that he's had at least 15 carries, he scored a touchdown. The one game where he didn't have, he only had 14 carries, he didn't.
Yeah, that's interesting. I did not know that.
So, let's see, if he gets a heavy workload, I think that could wear down their defense a little bit, and then, fourth quarter comes, you can be getting some chunks,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, once that tired defense hits, C.J. Anderson will get a little more fuel in the tank. I think that he can definitely take advantage of that situation.
He is a guy that tends to excel with an extended workload, especially if he's getting these carries in the fourth down. I think that's really where he can work people. He's been pretty successful second-half running back. Yeah,
he really is. Yeah, when the game is on the line, C.J. Anderson seems to be getting better and better and lives for those clutch moments. So, very good point.
We jump over to the other side of the ball. You got Atlanta's red hot offense. Matt Ryan's the number 1 quarterback through 4 weeks. They've been on fire. What more can I say?
Yeah, this is like an immovable object meets an unstoppable force. Denver's defense being that immovable object. I think that this is the best pass defense in the league against the best pass offense in the league, and typically the defense tends to win these matchups. So we'll see, of course, but Matt Ryan's going to have to be sharp against the Denver secondary.
Yeah, I think they got like an interception on 5 or 6 straight games dating back to last year. So, that's kind of where they've been thriving off of,
Yeah, definitely. I think that this is a game that could also get out of hand for the Falcons, too, if, Matt Ryan throws some very errant passes and the turnovers start piling up. Because typically whoever wins the turnover differential is going to win the game. So Matt Ryan's going to have to be very careful with the football. He's going to have to put it in the hands of his playmakers like Julio Jones.
I think that the Falcons, and they might try to take the ball out of Matt Ryan's hands and maybe give the ball more to Devontae Freeman. I think he could be in for a big workload, especially with Tevin Coleman playing with a sickle cell trait. I think that he's not going to get a whole lot of playing time. This is going to be a Devontae Freeman week.
Definitely, couldn't agree more. I think it's going to be an extended workload for him, and I really like Devontae Freeman this week, especially because if there is an area of weakness on the Denver defense, it is against the run, so that's definitely an area of weakness.
Yeah, I still think that Julio could have a decent enough game. I'm not really expecting him to have a touchdown this week, to be honest, but I think he could get like 5 or 6 catches, maybe like 60, 70 yards. I could see that being a possibility.
Yeah,
I have tempered expectations with him.
Yeah, he's such a good receiver that, you can't ever count him out of any matchup. He's a must-start every week, obviously. But, tempered expectations if you're a Julio owner. Wouldn't expect him to get 50 fucking points in a week again, just like last week. He's playing a extremely better defense. So, but I think he does get his fantasy nut this week. He's going to be more of a possession receiver, I think, this week.
And I think Mohamed Sanu will continue to be a non-factor. I mean, outside of that first week where he had 5 catches and 80 yards for a touchdown, he's only gotten 72 yards the past 3 games. So he had more yards in week 1 than he has for the past 3 games. He's only gotten 8 receptions, no touchdowns.
Yeah, we said he was a shitload of fuck. He proved us wrong week 1, and then we were like, wow, maybe he does get utilized moving forward. He hasn't really built on that yet, so fuck him.
Yeah, apparently it's been Jacob Tamme looking like that number 2 option over there, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know how successful he's going to be this week, but he's been kind of a guy where he's been getting some receptions, but you kind of wish that he'd get more touchdowns, That's just not really who he is, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, why don't we go over to – let's talk about the Cincinnati going on the road against Dallas. I think this is going to be a pretty close – it's a pretty close matchup. The spread is Cincinnati is favored by 2 on the road. I think Dallas might actually win this game, though. No, it's pretty much a toss-up, though. How do you feel about this game?
I feel like this is a game that Cincinnati's going to have to win. They already dropped a couple of games they should have won this season, and I think if they want to stay in the playoff hunt, this is kind of one of these games they need to win. So I look for Cincinnati to win this game. However, I do think this is going to be a toss-up. It's going to be close. But with Dez Bryant out, I think that Cincinnati keys in on that run with Elliott in the fold. And I really don't look for a lot of success from any Dallas receiver except for maybe Jason Witten and Cole Beasley. I think that those are the 2 guys that are continue to get work until Romo comes back.
Well, Cincinnati's been pretty good against slot receivers this year. So maybe Cole Beasley has a down game. So you look for Jason Witten to be involved underneath, although you can't really be counted for a touchdown. Terrence Williams actually looked pretty good last week, but I don't know how successful he's going to be going up against Drake Kirkpatrick. So I think this is a game where they're going to have to rely on Elliott. Cincinnati's not a very good team at stopping the run this year, although that could change with Burfict back in the lineup. But I think they're going to try and lean on Elliott.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that he's going to have to be the guy that they lean on because I think that as far as pass defenses go, Cincinnati's in the top half of pass defense. So it's a hard game to call here, but yeah, I like Cincinnati in this game. I think that their defense is going to end up keying in on Dak Prescott. It's a tough matchup for a rookie quarterback. And on the other side of the ball, I know that Tyler Eifert's probably not going to play this week. In fact, I think he was already ruled out. But you got guys.
He was.
Yeah, you got guys like AJ Green, who's been very impressive through the first 4 weeks. So I look for him to build on that.
Yeah, I'm looking for Dalton to expose this pass defense that's not been very good. Dalton's averaging over 300 yards a game. A.J. Green's coming off a big game. I think that he's going to try to continue that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, too, as far as that running back situation goes, it sounds like, Jeremy Hill's injured. He may or may not play. I don't care if he does or not. I still like Gio in this matchup. I think that Gio should be that rock that Andy Dalton continues to lean on going forward.
Yeah, do you see Gio as more of a wide receiver or running back 3?
Yeah, I think that, if you have to classify him somewhere as value, I think that you put him at that running back 3, maybe a flex play. But I still think that he's pretty much safe almost week to week, depending on the matchup.
All right. Really no tight ends to speak of. They've been using a committee. Ready to go over to another game?
Yeah, let's go Bills-Rams. I think this
Another
this
close game, I think.
Yeah, it should be a pretty close game. I don't like anybody on this Rams offense this week. I think even, I know that they had a little bit of success against Arizona last week. But this Rams this Rams team is due for a loss. I can't believe that this team has won 3 games so far. It's really surprising to me. So I look for them to lose this game. And the Bills, they need to stay in the hunt this year in the AFC East. So I think this is a game the Bills win.
I'm going to go the other end of here. LA favored by a point at home. I think they'll get it done against Buffalo. I think their pass defense is good enough to bottle up Robert Woods and Tyrod Taylor. And, Britt is actually on pace for 120 targets this year. He has 30 through 4, and he's been kind of a guy. It looks like he's kind of like the number 1 receiver over there. Tavon Austin's targets have been going down every week. He went from 12 to 9 to 8 to 6 last week. I think that maybe if they can get a run game going, they could work some play action down the field with Austin and Britt.
Yeah, I think that they could. Yeah, it's interesting you bring the targets up with Britt because I've been noticing that too. And I've been waiting for them to stop trusting Tavon Austin because his catch percentage is horrible this year. I believe the last time I checked it, he was at 43%, he catches 43% of his targets. So that's just not that good at all. And I look for Britt to get a heavier workload going forward. And with Todd Gurley, getting that extra passing down work and hopefully expanding his role, I think that's nothing but good.
I think that'll do nothing but help their offense if he gets involved in the passing game.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It'll definitely help Case Keenum out.
Yeah, it will, too. And I think it'll give Todd Gurley more of an open field to work with, and we know that he excels when he gets the room.
And if we go over to the other side of the ball, I think this is kind of like the McCoy show this week for them. I know Robert Woods has had 18 targets the past 2 weeks, and he looks like he's the de facto number 1. But I don't know how much success they're going to have against the LA defense. I look for McCoy to be leaned on heavily this week.
Yeah, McCoy is also recovering from an injury. I forget of what specification, but I definitely think that they're going to be a run-first team this week. However, I think if somebody's got to step up in that Buffalo team, and Robert Woods, because of opportunity, is obviously their number 1, and I think he has the opportunity, not so much the talent. But who knows? Maybe Marquise Goodwin catches a long one. We all know that Tyrod Taylor likes throwing that long ball. Marquise Goodwin's fast, but it's so fluky you can't even tell. He's not worth owning in any league.
Yeah, so. You can't really rely on that from week to week.
Exactly. Yeah. So I can see it happening, but should you own him on your team? No, you shouldn't. So it's difficult. But yeah, if you own Robert Woods, I think you're probably playing him because one of your receivers is the bye week. So I think that he's a decent enough play just because of opportunity. He'll get the targets.
Yeah, another guy that you should not own on your team is Charles Clay. He's been way too inconsistent to be relied on from week to week. So there's really no other guys that they have to be throwing the ball over to other than Robert Woods.
Absolutely.
All right. We are just going to go ahead and move right along. We could talk about San Diego going on the road against Oakland. This is surely to be another shootout game. Oakland's favored by 4 points at home. I think they do win this game and improve to 4-1.
Yeah, very, very surprising. I think that they're showing up to be the prime contenders for the AFC West with the Broncos. This is a great matchup, especially with Barrett out of the lineup for San Diego. I think that Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree should have some really good success this week. And even Clive Walford, for that matter, because San Diego hasn't really been that good against defending the tight end position either. The running back's the only position is the only one I can't make heads or tails of this week.
I've been getting a lot of questions about, hey, should I start DeAndre Washington as a flex this week? And my consistent answer has been no, you shouldn't start him at the flex position this week. It does look like they'll probably go to like a 50-50 split between him and Rashard. So I think this is an option where I try to sell DeAndre Washington to someone who maybe owns Latavius Murray, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody wants to look for an insurance policy, so I think that he's a good sell to a Latavius Murray owner. However, it's going to be interesting to monitor, going forward if, Jalen Richard or DeAndre Washington run away with it, because if you have one of them or, both of them on your bench, and see which one runs away with it.
Yeah, I mean, thus far in this young season, it looks like Crabtree's been out playing Cooper. I think they could both have a pretty good game this week, especially since you said Verrett is out. I think they both will have a pretty good game this week. Yeah,
I think so too. I think that this is really better for Amari Cooper than anybody because Verrett was set to key in on Amari Cooper being their number one. And, he's going to draw the most coverage. Now this frees up Amari Cooper a little bit, so I like him a lot going into this matchup. I think that he's going to get a touchdown this week, or at least that's my bet.
Well, it all just really depends on is he actually going to get any red zone work because, Crabtree's been dominating that area of the field.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know. It's been difficult for him.
And if we go over to the other side of the ball, they got some nice options this week as well. Philip Rivers gets to go against a bad pass defense. Is he gonna hone in on one receiver, or is he gonna continue to try to spread this out? You got Travis Benjamin and Tyrell Williams. They've both been having some good games, but they also been a bit inconsistent. Even Nacho Inman had 100 yards last week. So, I mean, who's gonna be this number one? Who's gonna step up and be this number one receiver over here?
Well, Inman's week last week was a little bit fluky to me, so I really think that's not going to.
He did have a really long play to help get that 100 yards too. So
yeah, it was very fluky. I look for Tyrell Williams and Travis Benjamin to still dominate targets going forward, and receive the bulk of that work. And it's all based on opportunity. They're getting the opportunity to get the most work, so I think that'll continue. Pay no attention to Inman. If you're a real fantasy owner, unless you're in a really deep league, you should not own him. And with Antonio Gates starting, I really wouldn't say that he's a star for me this week. I don't know what kind of work he's going to be receiving. If I had to start anybody in the San Diego offense, I think it would be Tyrell Williams.
Well, I mean, are you speaking in terms of receivers?
Yeah, and as far as receivers go, yeah.
Yeah, I think I do like Tyrell Williams the most as well. I think he's probably the biggest bet for a touchdown. Obviously, Travis Benjamin can be a field stretcher, but so can Tyrell Williams, and he's probably going to be the guy that can also go over the middle, too. So he has a bigger route tree than Benjamin. I think Gates and Henry both cut into each other's time, so even in a great matchup against Oakland, I don't know who's going to get the most work, too, so I don't know. It's a head-scratcher.
Yeah, well, if we shift to the other part of the San Diego offense, the run game, I think that Melvin Gordon's a great start this week, even with his yards per carry. Yeah, even if his yards per carry is going to be, where it's been the last 2 weeks, he hasn't really been having a too big of a YPC average. But he's getting those touchdowns, man, and he is the go-to guy in the red zone. So, look for that to continue.
I look for him to be a top 5 play this week. I think he'll have a fine week.
I agree. I totally agree.
All right. What's the next game you want to go over to?
I think we got 2 more left. Let's go over the Giants and the Packers Sunday night.
All right. The Giants are going on the road to Green Bay. Green Bay's favored by a touchdown. Them giving up 7 points. Do you think they'll cover the spread against the Giants?
I think the Giants are going to win this one. I go off their hunger. I mean, if they want to stay in this NFC East race, they're going to have to win this game. And I think this is going to be a big rebound week for Eli Manning and Odell Beckham, who have disappointed recently. So I think that they need to start producing, especially to quell everybody, who's been talking about Odell Beckham's unsportsmanlike shit. I think that this is going to be a shootout type game.
I think I got the Giants winning this game too. I think their defense will get it done against Green Bay. Is what it boils down to for me.
Yeah. This Green Bay defense hasn't been too good against the run, and they've been even worse against the pass. Demarius Randall, the number 2 corner there, has been getting burnt continually after having a promising rookie season last year. He hasn't really shown what he showed last year. And Sam Shields looks like he's going to be out again with a concussion. So I think this is a game where Odell Beckham could definitely get his confidence back. Victor Cruz could get some of those really short completions, if nobody else is open downfield. Sterling Shepard should have a decent enough week, too. It's a great matchup for him as well. And I think that you said Jennings is out, and I'm not too impressed with any of these running backs. I don't know that I would start any of them, except, if the bye is really hitting you hard this week. Maybe start Darkwa. But, no, I think that this pass offense for the Giants is really going to excel this week.
Yeah, everyone wants to talk about how OBJ's having a down year this year. 2015, he had 25 receptions on 40 targets for 307 yards and had 2 touchdowns. This year, he's actually very similar. He has 22 receptions on 37 targets, 303 yards, and no touchdowns. So 4 less yards on 3 less catches, 3 less targets. The only difference is he hasn't scored any touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm not worried, and neither should you. If you're an OBJ owner, I know that people are getting a little concerned. Don't make any knee-jerk reactions where you feel like you have to trade him for whatever you can get for him. Just ride it out. He'll be fine.
Great buy low candidate, though, too.
Yeah, exactly. If you have an owner that is freaking out about OBJ, definitely try to pick him and try to offer him something and see if you can get him.
Especially if you got a guy that's kind of like overperforming right now. Like that's definitely a guy that maybe you could sell high and buy OBJ for low. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's the time of the year where people do start to tend to freak out over what's been going on. So maybe that's definitely an interesting option. I think that Sterling Shepard will probably have a pretty good week. You've been saying that Randall's been getting torched, and if he does draw coverage with him, I look for Sterling Shepard to have a pretty good game.
Yeah, definitely. I think that and then like I said too, Victor Cruz, those intermediate routes. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Victor Cruz. Well, he's still pretty slow and shitty, so look for him to get open continually on those short intermediate routes.
Another interesting streaming option for tight end is Will Tye. It does look like Donnell's not going to play in this game, and Will Tye was actually a top 10 tight end towards the end of last year when he was actually getting the majority of the snaps. So I think this is actually a pretty interesting stream for him.
Yeah, definitely. They've been doing that split work, so you could never trust either tight end. But yeah, if Will Tye is the unquestioned guy this week, I think that he definitely has some nice streaming upside this week.
And let's go over to the other side of the ball. You got Green Bay's offense. It looks like they finally figured it out against the Lions. Now they got a bye week. I think the guy that's really been pretty good for them has been Jordy Nelson. He has 4 touchdowns through 3 games this year, and I think they're gonna look for him again in the red zone.
Yeah, he's been the continual rock each week for Aaron Rodgers, and I look for that to continue. I don't really see anybody giving him much of a challenge as far as carries go. Eddie Lacy has been lazy and eating too much McDonald's because he's still fucking fat. And
he actually had a 100-yard performance against the Lions too.
Yeah,
last time they played.
Yeah, last time they played. But yeah, Eddie Lacy has been picking it up a little bit, so that's something to look forward to. He's a guy that I think you could still get him for a moderate price via trade. So he's a guy that I'm targeting in a couple leagues if if people are willing to sell him.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think this could be a shootout, but the Giants have only allowed 4 passing touchdowns this year, and they're only giving up 3.2 yards a carry, which is 3rd lowest in the league. So I think this could be a game where their defense could show out against Green Bay because other than the Detroit game, their offense hasn't really been impressive either.
Yeah, I called it at the start of the season, and a lot of people called me crazy that I was saying that the Giants defense, they spend a lot of money in free agency, and they could be one of the top defenses this year, and it looks like I was right so far. I know we're still got a very young season, but it looks like I'm right so far.
Another guy that really needs to step it up is Randall Cobb. He hasn't scored a single touchdown this year. His target share has been going down a little bit. He's definitely a guy that's been a disappointment even last year.
Yeah, he's a guy that I think you could definitely buy him low from somebody. I think that people are definitely trying to get anything they can out of him. So if you got somebody who, like you were saying, who's overperforming, I think you could definitely sell him high and get a guy like Randall Cobb if you think that he's going to have a bounce back later this season.
Are you at all excited about Richard Rodgers with Jared Cook out?
No.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, other than the players we mentioned, I don't really see a whole lot of other people having success. We can go over to the Monday night game if you want.
Yeah, let's do that. Panthers, Buccaneers. As we know, Cam Newton has been ruled out due to concussion protocol, and Derek Anderson's drawing the start for the Panthers. I really don't, like I was saying earlier in the news and notes, I don't think this is going to hurt really anybody on that Carolina offense value. I think that it's going to perform quite the same, especially for guys like Greg Olsen. I think that his value remains unchanged. I think that his role stays the same no matter who's playing quarterback.
Yeah, I think Greg Olsen with his leading targets for tight ends is with 40. I think he's going to have another nice game against Tampa Bay. He had a pretty good game when Anderson started last year, so I think that he's going to be the main beneficiary this week.
I agree, and last week when Cam Newton went out for his avoidable concussion, Derek Anderson, he got Greg Olsen on a touchdown pass. So, and I look for that to continue. It seemed like Greg Olsen was the guy he was looking for on most plays. So, I look for him to be that rock this week. And I can't make heads or tails of the receiving core because I can't rightly say if I think that Anderson's going to utilize guys like Benjamin. But I can tell you who's not going to be utilized. I don't think that Funches is going to get a lot of work, and I don't think that Ted Ginn is going to get a lot of work.
Yeah, I think he can look for Kelvin Benjamin to get back on track. He's had 3 catches the past 2 weeks. I know he did score a garbage time touchdown last week. I think you could look for him to get back on track against Tampa Bay this week.
Yeah, I think so too. He's a good bet for that.
All right, Forrest Whitaker, he had 9 catches last week. I still think that you can't really start either him or Artis Payne. Look for Jonathan Stewart's close to coming back. He could be back next week, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And like I said about Derek Anderson, I think he's an interesting streaming option, especially in 2 quarterback leagues. Other than that, I think that pretty much covers all their offensive players.
Yeah, we should move on to the other side of the ball. Jameis Winston, he's one of the league leaders as far as pass attempts go. I look for, and this Carolina defense, like we said, has been torched in recent weeks, especially by Atlanta last week. And I look for that to continue this week. I think that Mike Evans is, they just released Ben Wickery. So I think that Mike Evans is going to have a good week.
Yeah, he's tied for first in targets thus far with Fitzgerald. So he's been getting a massive workload. Like you said, Winston's been throwing the ball a lot, but he has been turning the ball over. And I think a big part of that is the fact that he's been blitzed on 41% of his dropbacks this year. He's thrown 8 touchdowns, but he has 8 interceptions, and he also fumbled the ball a couple times too.
Yeah, definitely. He's thrown a lot of picks, and I think people are freaking out about that. I still am on the Jameis train. He had 8, like you said, 8 picks, 8 touchdowns, so he's like even. He's thrown a little more picks than he did last season. But he's also thrown for a good amount of yards, too. I think he's passing the ball a little too much this season, and I think he's making some ill-advised throws. But I look for him to get back on track starting with this week.
Well, I mean, Tampa Bay is averaging less than 4 yards a carry. I mean, a big part of that has been the fact that Doug Martin has been out. He won't be back until after their bye week in Week 7. So I think that he's in line for another heavily passed game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually have given up 51 points off of turnovers, which leads the league.
Yeah, interesting stat there.
Like we said, Evans is tied for first in targets. But I think the second option on that team is probably going to be Cameron Brate. He's gotten 18 targets in the past 2 games. He's been blossoming ever since ASJ left. Yeah,
I like him. I was off the Brate train, and now I'm on the Brate train. All aboard the Brate train. I think that he's a good bet to get a touchdown this week. So I think if you got your tight end on a bye this week, I think that he's a nice play.
Yeah, Carolina has been giving up some plays to tight ends this year too. So I look for him to be utilized. Adam Humphries, he had 24 targets before last week, but last week he only had, I think, like 4 targets. So I think that they're really missing a number 2 option on that team, so I think the reason why it could be Cameron Brate.
I totally agree. That's very good observation on your part. Yeah, Adam Humphries kind of falling off a little bit, and I think Jameis needs somebody else to pass the ball to instead of Mike Evans.
All right. That pretty much covers up all of our matchups for this week. I appreciate the ones that have been tuning in for our shows. You can find us on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher. for the people that don't have an iPhone. Please rate and review us on iTunes. We'll be taking questions all morning tomorrow, so please ask them on Twitter. Follow us at the Fifth Down FF. Thanks for tuning in, Fifth Downers.
All right.
All right, peace out.